and I have quite a lot to cram in, so I'm going to read it, I'm afraid, but I'll try and slow down. Zen and the Art of Conservation Management. Top 10 tips to ensure a great project. To misquote Robert Pirsig, this should be in no way associated with that great body of factual information relating to orthodox Zen Buddhist practice. And it's not very factual on conservation management either, so I apologise. My role as Forestry Commission Scotland archaeologist is to provide advice and guidance in relation to the protection, conservation and presentation of the historic environment on Scotland's national forest estate. It's around about 9% of Scotland. 2/3 forested and woodland and 1/3 open ground. Mainstreaming archaeology in the historic environment conservation management within our integrated land management has enabled an active and effective programme that encompasses archaeological measure survey, research excavation, professional CPD initiatives and the development of a range of learning resources. The success of the programme depends on a clearly defined approach to cultural significance, collaborative and creative innovation and an effective communication strategy. Raising the profile of archaeology and historic environment conservation management has resulted in both becoming integral and accepted aspects of our environmental portfolio. We aim to work with our stakeholders, such as Archaeology Scotland, to use the estate as a place for research and the development of best practice, and we're proud to support Scotland's archaeology strategy. Our strategic directions lay out our priorities in terms of integrated land management. And the key priorities for archaeology and historic environment are to undertake conservation management, condition monitoring and archaeological recording of significant historic assets, to work with stakeholders to develop, share and promote best practice historic environment conservation management, and to use the estate as a place for research and the development of best practice. How can our strategic directions be this good? I hear you ask. It's because I wrote them. I was given the chance to write my own strategic directions. Over the last few years, we have worked with Archaeology Scotland in several of these key areas, from advising on our learning resources to undertaking conservation management initiatives via the Adopt a Monument project. But back to Pirsig. He argued that quality or value cannot ever be truly defined because it exists as a perceptual experience before it is ever thought of descriptively or academically. This is very relevant to the concept of cultural significance within the historic environment. We may know our site is important, but we must strive to demonstrate this objectively. However, while conservation management resources should usually be directed towards significant sites, there are many different factors to consider, including the value of locally significant sites in fostering pride of place. And the community-led approach taken by Archaeology Scotland's Adopt a Monument team demonstrates many of my following top 10 tips for successful conservation management with a holistic and collaborative community methodology. Conservation decisions must be based on an articulation of heritage values, often known as cultural significance, and indeed the assessment of cultural significance will form an important part of any subsequent conservation or management plan. And the illicit whisky still at Badger Falls is a fine example of this concept. It's a good example of its type, hidden under a rocky cliff and set against a small burn. It has good intrinsic characteristics, with the potential survival of important archaeological evidence. It has good contextual characteristics as a well-preserved example of a relatively rare site type. I should point out where the site actually is. That's one wall there. There's the burn running down there, and another wall was just underneath here. And there's the plan as you face it, with a small entrance and the possibility of a channel running all the way through the building. And it has significant associative characteristics in that it is relatively accessible to the public on a popular woodland path, retaining clear emotive attributes as an illicit still with potential local historical links. But the most important thing about Badger Falls is its potential to enthuse my Forest District staff. It was discovered and recognised by one of our rangers deep in the heart of the ancient Caledonian pinewood of Glen Affric. So you can just about see it there. I've coloured it in red. Well, in fact, I drew it in red on the first edition map of 1872. And it's now incorporated into a regular guided walk by the ranger, who's terribly proud of himself, and rightly so. Following one such walk, a local sent us this arrest warrant. Mr. William MacDonald was born about 1760 and died before the census of 1841. He lived at Wester Achnaheglish, just south of Cannock, very close by to Badger Falls. And this warrant was issued in 1835 to the Collector of Excise to collect a fine of £35 from Donald and William MacDonald for offences against the laws and statutes of excise. They had been found guilty of illegal whisky distilling and had been ordered to pay a significant fine or face indefinite imprisonment. Although no evidence exists whatsoever to connect the MacDonalds to the illicit whisky still at Badger Falls, this does not stop me. It is remarkable to have such detailed historic evidence of illegal distilling so close to the well-preserved remains, but still. And Badger Falls illustrates the first of my top 10 tips, which is to be enthusiastic. Never underestimate the power of your own enthusiasm. It will help you to engage with a wide range of people and encourage them to get involved in your projects or be more receptive to your ideas. However, not everyone will understand or value your opinions or ideas. So always base your evidence or your advice on firm evidence, know your policy areas and strategic directions, be realistic in what is achievable, and know when to stand your ground. Both Scotland's archaeology strategy and our place in time, the historic environment strategy for Scotland, provide sound objectives and broad-ranging priorities that can help justify, support and guide our projects. Know your policy. So here we have the collaboration and engagement which are at the heart of the archaeology strategy. And this was the recent Scottish group of the Chartered Institute for Archaeologists Adopt a Replica Broch project. And I think it helps to illustrate this approach. The replica Broch at Strathyre provided a robust and clearly defined conservation project for the Scottish group CIFA annual general meeting. With expert assistance from the Adopt a Monument team and stonemason Bruce Curtis, CIFA volunteers were able to consolidate the structure with a turf cap over the course of a single day. Welcome collaborative assistance was provided by the Caithness Broch project, Northlight Heritage, Guard Archaeology, CFA Archaeology and FCS. And so this project illustrates the next of my top 10 tips, which is to be pragmatic, be realistic in what is achievable, perhaps by breaking your project down into its consistent parts. And in this case, it was thinking, well, we don't know how many people are going to turn up at the AGM, and it doesn't really matter if we don't finish the job, but at least by starting it, we can have some fun, and we did indeed finish in the day. The chambered tomb of Ben Caelan in Galloway illustrates the importance of archaeological measured survey in conservation management. That's the main capstone there, which you can then see in the laser scan. The tomb was surveyed by laser scanning, itself contributing to various Scottish archaeological research framework objectives, and the spectacular results, which were virtually guaranteed by the impressive nature of the structure, were highlighted in a recent edition of the famous local Galloway Ranger newsletter. And the survey of the Ben Caelan cairn illustrates the next of my top 10 tips, which is to be discerning, always aim to focus on significant historic assets, or those projects with the greatest chance of success. Keep your core strategic objectives in mind and make your time and resources count. And also prioritise your work. Consider best use of time and resources, and do not be scared to prioritise, even in the face of competing or demanding voices. I knew that the survey of the Ben Caelan cairn would produce good results, which would then be able to communicate to the wider community of Galloway, but also raise the profile of archaeology within the Galloway Forest District. Conservation is much about retaining historic character as it is about slowing decay. And to illustrate this, we shall explore Castle Grugaig, a particularly fine example of an unconsolidated broch, many other brochs having collapsed, been robbed for building stone, or consolidated with mortar as ruins. Over time, Broch of Castle Grugaig has progressively reduced in height, albeit relatively uniformly, down to the first floor level. However, because of randomly occurring collapses, vegetation growth and decay, the drystone has been pushed and displaced out of position where it can never be recovered to its original place. There's an aerial photograph. There is no overall instability threatening the ruin, but there are many localised areas which are serious risk due to general erosion, actions by visitors and vegetation growth. These areas are contained, but they are compromising some of the most critical parts of the ruin, such as the internal passages and chambers. There are also public safety issues. People climb and walk on the wall heads up the internal stair, not being aware that they are risking injury and assisting the collapse of loose and unstable stones, occasionally onto unsupported lintels or passages. The walls are in generally stable condition, however, despite this local displacement of stone. But a major problem is the uncertain stability of the lintels spanning the passages and the wall heads generally. And so any future conservation project at Castle Grugig, which is going to be expensive and it's going to be difficult to organise, should aim to stabilise critically weakened bearing elements such as lintels spanning important passages, chambers and niches. Carefully consolidate displaced stones within the walls and on the wall head, repinning with appropriate imported stone where necessary without losing the authenticity of features. And record, using both before and after fixed point photography and by annotating the conservation management record sheets, such as this one, all the areas impacted by the conservation work. Castle Grugig has been recorded by a detailed archaeological measured survey using terrestrial laser scanner, and a series of conservation management record sheets have been provided. Individual conservation actions will be planned and prioritised on site, with before and after fixed point photography undertaken to record the work. The complex conservation project has been split into several parts: the archaeological measure survey, the condition survey by the conservation architect, the method statement by the conservation stonemason. It illustrates the importance of the next of my top 10 tips, which is to define your vision. Always try to define your aims and objectives and seek to communicate your vision and or guidance clearly and concisely. Another example, Broch at Torwood near Falkirk, was recently the focus of a conservation project undertaken by Archaeology Scotland with grant aid from my colleagues in Forestry Commission Scotland and grants and licenses, the Forestry Development Programme. Under the guidance of Archaeology Scotland's Adopt a Monument team and the Local Authority Archaeology Service, volunteers cleared the Broch of scrub vegetation and naturally regenerating trees. The exposed drystone masonry and surrounding earthworks were then subject to a detailed measured survey by laser scanner. Remember, this is not on the National Forest estate, this is private forestry near Falkirk. But working in partnership, landowners, community groups, conservation bodies, and local and national government agencies can all help to share understanding, ensure protection, and celebrate the value of Scotland's historic environment. Successful partnership working supports the delivery of Our Place in Time, the Historic Environment Strategy for Scotland, helping to ensure that our heritage is passed on with pride to future generations. The project was also used as the case study at the heart of the new FCS guidance note, Forest and Historic Environment Information and Advice. It's a significant site receiving high quality conservation management, record and presentation, so we're using it as a hook to try and encourage other people to do similar. A poster was prepared for use at conferences such as Archaeological Research in Progress, and it formed the basis for further work by Stirling Council archaeologist Murray Cook, which was reported in a recent edition of the Archaeology Scotland newsletter. And this project helps to illustrate the importance and preparation for the next of my top 10 tips, which is communication. Always seek to promote your work and communicate success. Gather and capture good photographs at all times. Write paragraphs and images as a matter of course. Spend time ensuring good communication and outreach, and try to use clearly defined themes to communicate your ideas and information. But also collaborate. Seek to work with others, sharing success and celebrating partnership. Collaborations can be informal or formal, crossing organisations and disciplines. Collaboration can be creative and innovative, adding value, or simply reinforcing key messages by weight of numbers. But collaboration need not involve parity in resources or require balance within delivery, by which I mean it's good to share. Oops. Right. And my final example involves the fort of Torwood, which sits above Fort Augustus. Here you can see the sort of inner citadel with an outer rampart and an outer rampart here. And this is very much more a scarped rock-cut terrace. It's a really interesting site. It's got a great view from the air, but it can be quite difficult to see when you're on the ground. Oops. Children from the Inverness Young Archaeologists Club recently climbed the fort, and after exploring the ramparts, they learned about life within the fort. They heard the epic Anglo-Saxon story of Beowulf and imagined similar tales being told around the hearth of the hall. And using the new interpretation panel on site, they then created a fantastic pop-up exhibition of their own reconstruction drawings. Archaeological reconstruction drawings are often used to help people imagine what life was like in the past, but they're based on archaeological evidence, aerial photography and measured surveys. And they can be found in guidebooks, on-site interpretation panels, illustrating books, and in classroom learning resources. And so by using tour done as an example, we explained how to plan and create the reconstruction drawing. And the kids, aged between around 8 and 16, decided on their own themes and techniques. And some of the children's drawings can be seen here, alongside the reconstruction by artist Chris Mitchell that was commissioned for the new interpretation panel. Clockwise from top left, we have practicing perspective by Grace, using the cutaway technique to see inside the main hall by Kieran, showing the strong stone walls by my own little one Gabby, inside and outside the fort using annotations, that was Sophie, did a really good job. Colour and perspective by Emily, a lookout tower by Georgina, who was obsessed by the view over the cliffs, and the rock-cut ditch, which really clearly was the theme that Anya picked up on. So, the pop-up exhibition was then displayed as the culmination of a public guided walk to the fort. The event sought to test the activity before its inclusion within a forthcoming collaborative FCS learning resource, Outdoor Archaeological Learning, which is in preparation for next year's Year of History, Heritage and Archaeology. The activity is linked to existing resources, such as the FCS learning resource, the Picts, and recycles existing reconstruction drawings from our thematic hill forts of the Highlands interpretation panels, using already paid for and good quality reconstruction drawings in a different way. The activity is a great example of my final top 10 tip, which is to use thematic links. Always remember to link projects and products together wherever possible, and do not be scared of repeating core messages or returning to old projects, particularly if they were successful. Use topics such as site or site type and design to create interlinked themes within your work, using individual projects as building blocks. Use lateral thinking, trying to think creatively and to encourage others to do so, as the creative use of archaeology in the historic environment can stimulate interest, encourage conservation and engender pride of place. And finally, experiment. Don't be scared of the risk of failure, because it's only by testing ideas that we can further the development of methodology and knowledge. And that's me. Sorry for rattling through.